family and open some presents around the Christmas tree. For others, it's the day to see new releases in movie theaters, including these familiar characters.
It's time. I'll tell you a story. A story of a cub, not much bigger than you.
So just to be clear, we're not in this story?
There's a lot of stories with all of us. Tell one of those.
Long before they became legends, Mufasa and the prince who would come to be known as Scar became brothers.
That was from Mufasa, The Lion King, a prequel to the Disney classic. To give us a rundown of what is opening up this holiday season, we have Metro Morning movie columnist Jason Gorber. Hello.
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. So for
Happy holidays.
Yeah,
all that stuff.
All the stuff. It's that day for that. For people who have grown up on The Lion King, is Mufasa a worthy addition to the story?
Sure. It's solidly fine. Look, the film's really interesting. This is a prequel to the quote-unquote live-action version. In other words, we had the animated version, the glorious original animated version, and then, as Disney is wont these days, they've done a complete CGI version that they ostensibly refer to as a live-action version. Of course, they're entirely animated, with some natural backgrounds, quote-unquote, that are still manipulated majorly. And that made $1 gazillion. And so they thought, okay, why don't we do a prequel and do what many, many prequels do, which is to answer questions nobody had. Nobody really needed to know how Scar got its name. Guess what? It got his name because he has a scar. We didn't need to know how Rafiki became Rafiki. We didn't need any of this stuff. And yet the film fills something in our holiday spirit of you just got to get the kids out of the house and take them to a movie and have something that is okay. And they will be sort of babysat by visuals on a grand scheme. And Disney will get a title that will showcase theatrically and then be on their streaming service for eons.
Wow.
And we will continue to cherish all things Lion King. What's weird about this one is that they hired Barry Jenkins to direct this thing. Now, our listeners are well aware Barry Jenkins directed things like Moonlight. We have this incredible African-American filmmaker that's bringing his sort of art prowess to this film and given this giant multi-$100 million canvas to bring his aesthetic here, bring in people like Beyonce's back. We have people like Aaron Pierre and Kelvin Harrison Jr., two incredible performers doing the voices. We have a film dedicated to the late James Earl Jones, the magnificent James Earl Jones. And then in the end, you get Lin-Manuel Miranda doing the music. And all of these ingredients are there, and you're watching the film, and you're like, "What? It's fine. it's fine."
Wow, how do you really feel?
It's not terrible. The music's like really forgettable. And again, I'm a big defender of Lin-Manuel. I think everybody weirdly hates him now. I don't know why. Not everybody, but like, and Kento's amazing. Like all kinds of post-Hamilton stuff that he's done has been really, really great. But he's trying to live. I think he tried too hard with Mufasa. I mean, there's literally a song about brothers which just doesn't go anywhere, and there's another one called Bye-Bye, and it just says bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. And you're just like, what are we doing here? And it feels a little bit like those, like Disney used to do these all the time, the straight-to-video DVD like postquels that they used to do, where it would just be, you know, the secondary characters sort of taken off. And yet this truly is a grand theatrical experience. Who knows? It'll probably make a lot of money and everybody will be happy and stockholders will be happy and parents will be happy. But me as a film goer, I'm just like, it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay, let's change the subject then. A Complete Unknown, which stars Timothée Chalamet about Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan, a complete unknown, I should say. Do we learn more about Bob Dylan in this?
Absolutely not. But how big of a Bob Dylan fan are you at all? Like, do you
barely there?
Exactly.
But, yeah.
Exactly. How big of a Chalamet fan are you?
Not even close.
Perfect. So what this film does? This film gets situated in a very interesting place. Namely, we've had a couple films that basically say this film is impossible. to do. I mean, forget it, Llewyn Davis, the masterpiece that is Llewyn Davis. Let's just look directly at I'm Not There, which is a film where 5 different actors played Bob Dylan to talk about the impossibility of this mercurial artist being actually tackled in a straightforward way. And then you have Walk Hard, which is the unbelievable parody version in part of James Mangold's Walk the Line, but a million other films that shows the music biopic is ridiculous on its face, that you can't do it seriously without it being stupid. And yet, James Mangold, Timothée Chalamet come up and do the Bob Dylan story, and despite all of this, despite being told that it cannot be done, they pull it off. And they pull it off for 2 reasons. One, Chalamet, even if he's not your top of your list, has an incredible on-screen charisma here. The similar kind of irrational charisma or beautiful charisma that Bob Dylan had, and that people will be drawn to this character. He's singing, he's playing guitar, he's doing all this stuff. You have people like Monica Barbaro doing an incredible job as Joan Baez. You have Ed Norton being as good as he's been in years. You have Elle Fanning being terrible. But all of this being said to give a complete unknown, complete lie version of what this whole Bob Dylan era is, but cinematically it totally works. Go in, enjoy the ride, and the moment you think, wait a minute, that is not what happened at Newport. Wait a minute, why are they taking stuff that happened in Britain 2 years later? The moment you start trying to make this historically accurate, you are completely missing the point, because this is entirely a completely fictionalized version of a person who himself is Robert Zimmerman fictionalized himself to become Bob Dylan. The film takes that myth, amps it to another level, and creates something that's incredibly entertaining, incredibly intoxicating in some ways musically, but does so without ever caring about being pedantic in terms of the truth-telling. And if you know that going in, just go along for a ride and just enjoy the preposterousness of all the historical reinvention, and just enjoy some really committed performances and some pretty strong direction from Mangold, who hasn't been as good in years.
Okay, let's talk about something for the horror fans, Nosferatu.
Okay, so this one's even more weird. So, you got Nosferatu, the Frederick Murnau, F.W. Murnau film from a million years ago, 30s, where he couldn't get the rights to Dracula, so he redid the Dracula story and called it Nosferatu. So, take a huge chunk of that film, take a bunch of stuff like Francis Coppola's version of Bram Stoker's Dracula, all kinds of other films that have sort of mined a serious version of this character, and then get Robert Eggers involved. He's the guy that did The Witch. He's the guy that did Lighthouse. So here's a guy who, when he was 9 years old or whatever, was obsessed with Nosferatu and really wanted to make his version of the story. And he's done it beautifully. The exquisite visuals, very somber. Bill Skarsgård, the youngest of the Skarsgård boys, plays this sort of giant, very Romanian version of Nosferatu. You have Lily Rose Depp, you have Nicholas Hoult, you have Aaron Taylor Johnson, all these people, and the beloved Willem Dafoe, completely milking this gothic romance for every frame. This, in the best of ways, feels for me like what Peter Jackson did with King Kong. Not everybody loved that, but it was so clear that after Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson's like, you know what? I love King Kong, and I have now made trillions of dollars for the studio. I want to make my favorite film ever as a kid. Robert Eggers has been given the opportunity to fulfill a childhood dream. And again, the moment you feel that the film is too much or that it's too echoey of what has in the past, just think, how wonderful is it that a filmmaker has been gifted the ability to make whatever it is that he wants, to get the cast that he wants, to create the incredible production design, and to take us into this dark, foreboding world, which dances between the romantic elements and the super dark and the super creepy. It is... You want cross-programming. Like, you have a Dylan movie, you have a Lion movie, and you have a absolute depth into the darkness, but done so in a way that even if you're not big into scares, jump scares, or anything, it's not that. It's like a cool, slow burn into a level of sort of exquisite darkness that I think Robert Eggers, as this unique filmmaker, this guy who, like, The Witch is a masterpiece. I mean, this is a guy who knocked it out of the park right from his first film. of twisting our expectations, drawing from the past, but really very much taking in a modernist aesthetic. And I think Nosferatu may not be his best film, but I will celebrate every moment that he had the opportunity to get away with this. And it sort of feels like that. As I said, even when you feel like, oh man, maybe that's a little bit too much, you're like, how can you begrudge somebody clearly loving this on every level?
Okay, we have a minute, and I want to do one more pivot here. Better Man, the story of Robbie Williams, but he does not appear as himself. The story is told with a chimpanzee in the role.
Yeah, him as a monkey. It's great. And it's wild because Robbie Williams, had like one major hit here. And it wasn't even that major. I think it made 50 on the chart. But in Britain, he is legendary. He's a huge star. So think of this as Rocket Man, except without the cachet in North America of Elton John. And the way to do it is to, instead of doing it as a full-on musical like Rocket Man does, and Rocket Man's absolutely, you want something to watch at home, watch Rocket Man. Better Man is still really well done. It gets into his own self-doubt, his mental health issues, etc., and it's how he sees himself. The visualization, it's Weta Workshop, the guys that did Lord of the Rings and Planet of the Apes, who do this mocap version of him. It overstays its welcome a little bit if you're not already on Team Robbie Williams. But even if you know nothing about his music, and I think many people on this continent know very little about him, it's still incredibly engaging and a demonstration of how, unlike a Complete Unknown, you got to twist things sometimes in order to get a really interesting take on the music. Doc. Lots of films here. Yeah. It's Christmaka, baby. It's when the Jews go to the movie theater and hang out and go get Chinese food. May whatever you're celebrating go, and it's a wonderful time to catch up on a bunch of major films that are playing and just spend a bunch of time away from the family in a movie theater without your phone on. Turn off your phone.
Okay, I will turn off my phone.
Enjoy the movie and enjoy it.
Jason, thanks for this.
All the best. Happy holidays, sir.
Happy holidays. Jason Gorber is Metro Morning's a movie columnist and editor-in-chief of That Shelf.
That Shelf.